Essentially got a therapist, someone who's dissected mine and Harvey's brain. We're going to be uncovering exactly what she knows.
One of the things that I realised in my journey is it's not just about your mindset, which in the personal development world everybody hyper-focuses on. It's also about your abilities.
Is it typically men that come to you with that phrase of, I feel emotionless?
Absolutely. Men are conditioned far more than women are. However, it is quite common too that women feel the same.
I always thought confidence is either something you have or you don't.
Confidence is an emotion. Usually what they're talking about is socially. They're like, oh, you're a confident person. No, you're just confident in a social setting.
So if you're someone listening to this and there's a big step you want to take, I don't know, public speaking, how do you deal with building that confidence at a new level? Because it's fucking scary, right?
It is scary. You're not going to like the answer.
Welcome back to Two Blokes One Business, and today it's going to take a bit of a weird turn. We've essentially got a therapist sat on the pod with us, someone who's dissected into mine and Harvey's brain, what makes us tick, what makes us who we are, and we're going to be kind of uncovering exactly what she knows. Now, Jess is pretty special because you're not just a mindset coach. It really relates to the emotional state and your emotional past into why that drives the mindset, which drives your actions, which ultimately drives your success.
So, Jess, if someone has just clicked on this conversation today and they don't know about the work that you do, why is this conversation and the work that you do that we're going to run through in a minute, why is that so important to what we feel is absolutely everyone, even if they feel like they might not need that help? Because I definitely think that was us when we first walked through the door of your house.
Well, it was. And maybe let's go back to how I met you guys. And you saw me doing a speech about emotional regulation being the key to our success, not just mindset. I'm a mindset coach, obviously. So I am obsessed with mind and unlocking people's potential. But one of the things that I realized in my journey is it's not just about thinking better thoughts. Otherwise, we'd all be successful. You'd just be like, oh, okay, that's a bad thought. Replace it with a new one. It's not just about your mindset or your beliefs or your paradigm, which in the personal development world, everybody hyper-focuses on. It's also about your ability to emotionally regulate. And I think when you guys first came up to me after that speech, that was the first question you asked. You're like, so what if you don't feel emotions?
We literally sometimes we're like, we actually think we're emotionless. Like, yeah.
You're like, what's the relevance of emotions and what do you do if you don't necessarily feel emotions? Which actually, it sounds funny when you hear it back, but I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that question. And especially when we are taught and conditioned that mind over everything, mind over matter. Mind is all that matters.
Is it typically men that come to you with that phrase of, I feel emotionless? Because I feel like the old age thing as men, we're just taught to, or the way we do deal with things is just switch it off, put it in the back, don't worry about it, carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're conditioned, I would say men are conditioned far more than women are. However, it is quite common too that women feel the same because they're also taught, leave your emotions at the door. And if you want to be successful and if you want to excel in the workplace or in a career, then essentially you have to be more like men, which now means you have to adopt the same conditioning, which is emotions are not efficient. And that if you're in an emotional state, you're not going to make good choices, you're not going to function, you're not going to move forward. So it's always like, leave your emotions at home when you're at work, otherwise you're not going to excel. And that couldn't be further from the truth because now we're teaching generation after generation emotional weakness. And then we don't understand why we can't get ourselves to do the things that we know are going to move the needle or that we know are going to actually help us succeed. And we're like, I'm thinking good thoughts or I'm doing all the personal development or I'm listening to all the podcasts. Why can't I get myself to do it? It's not about your thoughts. It's about your inability to feel uncomfortable or to feel particular emotions.
I think that's where we reflected, wasn't it? We were like, it's just a Band-Aid approach, bad thought, deal with it, pack it away. And it's like, we knew the journey we were going on with business and we knew that these problems were going to get bigger, the pressure's going to get bigger, the decisions we make are going to have to get bigger. The highs are a lot higher. The first few wins we had were amazing, but the first few losses we had, like when it's not just a commission that you're losing out on in our world, it's the whole fee that you miss out on when something falls over.
You already spent the money in your head, right? You're already off the bar lead. We're all inclusive.
When it falls over, it fucking hurts, hey? And you're like, shit, we need to get better at dealing with this.
And I think it was a time of life for us as well where we were just about to hire 3 new females to come and work in the business. prior to that, it was me, Harvey, Andy, who Harvey went to uni with, and Chloe, who's kind of one of the lads and knew what we were about. You know, we could kind of, don't want to sound bad, but treat her as the same way we might treat Andy. And she got on with that. So we knew we had to change. Like, we knew we couldn't operate the same way we did, communicate the same way we did without having a bit more emotional intelligence. Sensitivity is probably the word as well. I'm sure there's a few more words, Jess, finding your brain.
Our missos are probably really happy that Jess has come into our lives.
But I guess I'm really keen to kind of go into the covers a little bit, Jess, and talk about what you learn about us. Obviously, you shared your notes and we were kind of work through that. But even whilst we're working through that, when you're looking at us and we're saying, this is why we're scared of success, this is why we're scared of failure, and what were you unpicking about us? Why does that make us who we are? Why has that helped us be a certain level of success? And what's also actually holding us back from even being further along than we actually already are?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you guys will have to give me some sort of hand signal if I'm sharing confidential session notes.
Like, give them everything.
We did not give you that much, Luke.
We'll cut it out. No, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things for you guys especially was not just like, how do I, tap back into my emotional life or my emotions in general, but then how are they relevant and how are they important? And I think when you look at what actually drives you, which is what we did, right? So you're saying you've got to a certain level of success based on everything that you are, based on all of the things that you've thought, based on your emotional capacity to that stage. And so when people talk about up-leveling in business or up-leveling in life, they want to know, what do I have to do? And so they'll sign up to business programs or, workshops or masterclasses or masterminds, and they want the formula. Like, you're a successful person, give me what you did. So, X plus Y equals Z. If I follow that formula, I'll be as successful as you. How often does that not work? Right?
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
People get disillusioned and they get disappointed, upset. They're like, I'm doing and spending so much money to do all the things that successful people do, yet I'm not achieving that level of success. Because it's not actually about what you do. It's about who you are. And that is a very holistic approach, which is one obviously I took with you guys too, which is something that was quite unique, probably to what you'd heard before that, where it's like, if you're at this level, I'm not on camera. If you're at this level,
you are.
Okay, cool. To get to the next level, you actually have to be a different person. You have to think differently. You have to feel differently. Otherwise, you're only going to create more of what you've already created. And that's the part that people kind of miss. They're focused on external growth and external change and external transformation. They're not focused on the internal transformation that has to happen. So like you're talking about, Harv, when you want to get to another level, that's going to bring new emotions. The bigger you get, the bigger the emotions, the bigger the stress, the bigger the worry, the bigger the responsibility. That's a big one. That's actually when you get past like fear of failure and success, you actually move on to fear of responsibility. So everybody says they want to have impact and they want to have influence. But what comes with that is enormous pressure and responsibility to other people. And that's what a lot of people fear.
Yeah, I can relate, because I remember when we started the business, it was we were only responsible for me and ads. And we just knew that we were just going to go laser focused, get results, make sure this works. Whereas when you bring 5 other people into the business, like within months, we'd completely had to flip our mindset and the way we operated.
And I think it's just that sense of self as well, right? It's so easy to let yourself down. You can't let these people down who rely on you to pay the mortgage, pay the rent, whatever else it is as well. But I do think, and maybe it's because we have grown, I do think we didn't balk at that ever. I never felt like that massive sense of responsibility. I understood it was there, but I never shied away from it. That's a step in the journey. And it's going to happen at some point, if not now.
The thing that fascinated me the most when we obviously started working with you individually and digging into the past and our different traits, I always thought confidence is either something you have across everything or you don't. Whereas what I probably learned is there's some areas of work, my personal life, that I'm super confident in. And as a whole, I felt I was a very confident person. And then when you start pulling it apart into each little department, Jess reminded me that there's some areas I'm like, holy shit, I've got absolutely zero confidence in that space. And that's probably where we had to really get uncomfortable to move forward.
I think that's a key too in what you're saying there is confidence. People think as a personality trait. Confidence is an emotion. It's not a characteristic. And so when somebody says, oh, you know, Adam, you're confident, or Harvey, you're such a confident person, or Jess, like, how do I get as confident as you? Like, what are you talking about? Like, confidence is an emotion, and you feel confident when you are competent at something, when you're good at something, when you're well practiced, well skilled at something, or you've just gone through it so much that you know what it feels like, the ins and the outs, and there's not that same level of fear. And so when people say, oh, you're so confident, usually what they're talking about is socially, right? If you're socially pretty competent and you've got good social skills, they're like, oh, you're a confident person. No, you're just confident in a social setting. You feel that emotion in that setting. And so I think that's where it's like, it's not a characteristic that then goes across everything, like you're saying. There's certain areas of my life I feel confidence, and there's certain levels or areas of my life I don't.
So if you're someone listening to this and you feel completely confident and competent in your current life, but there's a big step you want to take, whether it's in a career, launch a new business, I don't know, try a new skill, public speaking, how do you deal with getting uncomfortable and building that confidence at a new level? Because it's fucking scary, right?
It is scary. You're not going to like the answer.
Anyway.
So obviously what I believe in is probably more similar to exposure therapy. You can't feel okay doing something that you've not done. And so many people come to me and they're like, okay, I want this goal, but I don't want to experience rejection, or I don't want to experience failure, or I don't want to experience embarrassment or, being ostracized. And if you're not okay with, this is where the emotional part comes in. If you're not okay feeling those emotions, because all it is an emotion, you're not going to do the thing that will elicit the emotion. So you're not going to put yourself out there if you're afraid of being rejected. And so the only way to overcome that is to get okay being rejected. And to get okay being rejected, you have to be rejected over and over and over again. It's literally like somebody saying, I want to build strong muscles, but I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to pick up a weight. I don't actually want to work out at all. How do I get big muscles? And you would look at that person and you'd be like,
you're an idiot.
Yeah, that's not going to work. And yet we try to apply that in other areas of our life where it's the exact same principle. You're going to have to experience the pain and the discomfort. There's no way around it.
Is there a certain time frame where because it sounds like you have to seek the rejection or seek the uncomfortable. Is it a case of, I'm thinking back to when we spoke on stage at the National Sales Conference in front of 1,000 people, we were shitting ourselves all day. But the minute we got up there, got into the uncomfortable and became comfortable almost instantly, I think by the end, we were dragging ads off stage. He'd have took over from Tucky for the rest of the
tap dancing on there.
So is there a time frame, or is it different strokes to different folks?
Yeah. Different strokes to different folks. I like that.
I've never heard him say that before.
Well, I come up with so many new things on this podcast. It's class.
That's incredible.
Oh, God. Well, I think it depends. It does also depend on your personality. People have different levels of resilience. That's just a fact. You have some people, if it's going to take them, if they're just constantly dipping their toe in or their toenail in, then it's going to take you longer. If somebody has the kind of personality that's like, do you know what? If this is what I have to do, if I have to feel this discomfort in this area, dive in. I'm just going to dive straight in, sink or swim, that kind of mentality. Not everybody has that resilience, but if you do, you're going to get the results faster. It's pretty simple. Like the more that you avoid it, the longer it will take. You are prolonging the process. And so to get to the next level, which is what we went through together, to get through the next level, it was uncovering what are the emotions you don't want to feel that next level is going to stimulate for you. Now let's hurry up and feel them. Let's get good at feeling them, at becoming resilient at them. so that you're able to go to the next level. That's the internal transformation.
Before we dive into the actual findings of dissecting our brain, what were you expecting from us walking in? I'm always very interested to understand what people's perception is of.
He's like, is that guy Jim Carrey?
And is that guy's head on upside down?
Bold count, 1 for the episode.
But obviously, you did not. We obviously knew of you seen on stage. You, I'm sure, Tucky might have mentioned a bit about us. But what were you expecting us to come in with, and then how did that, I guess, relate to what we're actually like and what we kind of found out about us?
Why would you ask that question on your podcast?
Brave or stupid.
We need viewers.
Bit of clickbait. No, I think like for you guys, the one thing that you do give off immediately is it is very genuine. So it was like authentic, genuine. You weren't afraid to say, hey, cool speech, but what the fuck? Like, I don't understand this or I don't understand that. How is this going to help me? And you're really open and authentic and genuine. And so I felt that when you came in, especially you ads were, I think you came first. So there was a definite nervousness for you. But because of your openness, you very quickly were able to be like, I didn't think that we were going to talk about this. And okay, if I'm here for a purpose and if that's where we have to go, let's go there. You know, and I think, Harvey, you were the same. Like there was, no one likes to do the inner work. It's not comfortable. And especially, you know, as men, that is not a space that I thought, I felt either of you had ever stepped into.
No.
So one, just to honor you both, to allow that space when you came in to see me, you're like, okay, well, let's do it. And to trust me to kind of, you know, go under the covers, as you say, and to actually explore that part of yourselves. So
I remember walking out of there first time and I was like, fuck, have I just been in like a psychedelic trip? I was like an hour and a half and I was just like, I kind of remembered everything, but it was all just a blur.
Yeah.
And I was just like, gosh, she's good.
Because straight away, pretty much everything we do in life, as soon as we get in the car, we call each other. How'd you go? What was that like?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, man, I don't know.
I need a moment to process. For people that never felt emotions, you're like, so many emotions.
I can actually remember the moment though. I was like, she probing and probing. And I was like, oh, fuck it. I might as well give you everything. Here we go, strap in. But you know, I actually felt great to do as well. And I think after that, I now can speak about my past a lot easier with people. Like it didn't faze me at the time, but I think that was more of a naivety. But now it's more so like an acceptance maybe, but don't know. I think that's the first time we talk about it. And this is, I guess, context, right? I was losing my dad as a teenager. First, I'd always talk about it and not be asked, but then talking about it with a bit of meaning with you. Now it's a lot easier to talk about with meaning other people, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's why I love the work you do, because you process everything and all those emotions or all those feelings and mindsets back to how we can relate that to performance. And that's what we're obsessed with. I've done therapy in the past with a psychologist and just didn't click with him. And it was kind of like trying to put me in my younger self and talk to me in the present day. And I was just like, yuck. I was just like, I don't need to do all this. Like what's happened has happened, but tell me how I can use the past or the feelings I've got from those experiences and now turn it into elite performance today, or how to deal with that. And that's why I think we both gelled so well with you, because it wasn't like, let's acknowledge how we're feeling and let's just sit in that for now. It's like, let's do that. But here's now how I'm going to tell you to utilize that and make it your superpower.
Yeah. It's I know, especially for just the way the masculine mind is wired, it's like, what is the purpose? I'll go there, I'll explore the pain, or I'll explore the childhood trauma, I'll explore those things that I've locked away in a box if there's a purpose. And so I think sometimes a traditional therapy it's a brilliant for talk therapy, to like vent and let it out, and to maybe bring up those emotions so they can be processed. But for men like you're like, what do I do with that? I don't want to just sit here and talk about it. I want to know how that actually applies to my life. And when I think that foundation's established, both of you are so willing to dive in. You're like, oh, okay, if there's a purpose, if this is going to help me with performance, if this is going to help me in my relationship, if it's going to help me get to the next level, if it's going to help our staff, all right, fine. Let's look at it. Let's see the patterns that are there.
Is that the first step, getting someone to open up? Obviously, it sounds like we were a lot easier than most, but do you have some people walk through the door?
You were harder, Harvey.
Oh, really?
Well, let's just get that clear.
Do you get that, though? Some people that are just so resistant, like I don't know, they might be there because the missus has forced them or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think for me, though, I'm pretty particular with the kind of people that I will see. Like that's the difference between me to not being a psychologist. I'm a coach. And so I want to see people that are ready for change, that are coming to me with some degree of responsibility and accountability. And so I think that helps in that sense, that it's like, it doesn't really matter where they start as long as they're willing. And then I can do the rest. I'll pull the thread. And I do think a lot of people are open when you start to, well, you guys can give, like when you actually do start to open up, you're like, oh, like kind of the foot's in the door. It's a lot easier to move from there.
And then what about, so moving out for that first session, all the skeletons are out the closet, which was good.
Apparently mine weren't.
Half of yours was.
Adam's like, I'm not coming back to do this again. Have it all.
Lock the door. So then you understood us more after the first session, great. And then moving into then, what was kind of the next step to building us back up a little bit, I guess, or building our understanding?
Once I just tore you down.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. I think the importance of, and just go back to you, Harvey, where it's like being able to understand childhood trauma and the patterns it creates. That's the point. Because it's like, how does my childhood affect my adulthood? It's because of the strategies that you learn as a child. And for you guys, the sticking point was, oh, actually, don't take away that from me because I'm using that as a driver. So, for example, don't take the chip off my shoulder, Jess. Yeah. Word for word. Don't take the chip off my shoulder, because that's been a really powerful driver and why I feel so successful. And this is a key in this kind of transformational work. You actually have to be willing to let go of what got you to where you are if you want to get to the next level. And it's not about saying that that chip on the shoulder or that desire to prove your worth was ever bad. It got you to where you are. But if you want to get to the next level, you're actually going to have to step into something other than proving worth or proving other people wrong. Like you're going to have to tap into something else. And a lot of people don't want to let go to the identity they've created because of their trauma. When that identity is good and powerful, they're like, "Oh, don't take it away. Don't take my trauma away then, because who am I if I'm not driving to prove everybody wrong?"
Yeah, I think for me it was that just acknowledging that that emotion or that childhood trauma was the reason I am the way I am today. Because for me, I punish myself. Like I just set these massive crazy goals and go and achieve them. And most people will be like, "Fuck, how good, mate?" And I'm like, yeah, but then you see someone that's 10 years down the line and you're like, okay, I want to be there. And it's just that relentless hamster wheel of internally, I'm never good enough. I'm never good enough, because you're just constantly changing your goalposts. But I think the way you perhaps helped communicate it to me, and I understood that actually that's my superpower. It's helped me step back and look back and go, okay, celebrate the achievement, because you know you're about to go and move the goalpost tomorrow, and that's going to keep you moving forward. But even just that moment for me, like that one day where we just sit back, sometimes we do it in here and we just go, fucking hell, mate, we're doing all right here. Like it's going pretty well. Just those small moments make it a little bit easier to deal with that.
Yeah, and I think having someone to reflect with as well is nice. I think if you were by yourself, you'd have no chance. I mean, you just full steam ahead. You will never look back.
I don't think I'd have any mates or any family. I'd just be right here 24 hours a day.
But talking about superpowers, I know mine was not feeling loads. Like the barrier, I'm not sure what the wording is, but not feeling too much, which is a good thing because I kind of just keep cracking on. I just plow forward and just make progress. I don't get too down. I don't necessarily get too happy about it either. I kind of just live in that little middle zone, which is a superpower, but at the same time, I remember quite clearly your kind of instruction was next time something sad happens or something happy, just sit in it. Don't try and get rid of it because it's uncomfortable, just be in it. And I think I actually ended up crying a couple of days later. I can't remember what it was about.
What happened?
Yeah, no, I think I remember you had a conversation with a friend, or the friend was really expressing to you how you had benefited them or helped them. They're expressing gratitude for you for something, and you actually had really felt that and got quite emotional.
Yeah, it was Louis actually. That rings a bell now.
Yeah.
I remember because he was just going through a bit of a tough time himself. He'd been with us, trying to find his way, and then he just like, those moments with someone. And normally I'd be like, oh yeah, sick mate, or whatever. But I had Jess's voice in the back of my head, and I was like shedding a tear. I was like, fuck, babe, I just cried a minute ago. Like, how good's that?
I've still been trying. Like Brit thinks I can't cry. She's like, you didn't cry when our daughter was born. I'm like, honestly, there's been times where I'm like, this is a moment I should cry. I'm going to try and cry. And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't happen.
I'm just picturing you like on your wedding day, like you're just like poking yourself in the eyeballs to get a bit of juice out.
Oh shit.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's not about forcing it. And I think that was actually tough for you, I know, Adam, in being like, but this is my superpower, Jess. Like being emotionless, that's my superpower. Right?
What a title.
No, well, that's what you said to me. I mean, obviously, the reality is neither of you are emotionless.
Yeah.
No one actually is emotionless. Even if people are feeling numb is an emotion. Right? So we actually all are feeling, but we limit our how much we let in, basically, like how much of it we feel. So we might feel a bit of sadness, but we don't feel despair, or we don't feel sorrow. But the flip side of that is you might feel a little bit of happiness, but you don't feel joy. You can't limit feeling the bad ones without also limiting feeling the good ones. And so, like I said, it's not about dishonoring what got you this far. Being quite practical got you this far, or not dwelling in the negative emotions got you this far. But also, if you want to live a really fulfilled life, then the next level is letting more emotion in, but not letting it topple you. And I think that's where I know for me, and I don't know if your listeners would relate to this, where I just didn't see the value of being emotional. I never did. Yeah. And some examples that I had growing up of really emotional people was chaos, was destruction. Like it wasn't stable. And so to me, when somebody says being emotional, I think of instability. I think of not being stable. I think of causing damage to you and other people. And so for the longest time, I just didn't see anything valuable about that. Like practicality, being logical, that's the strength. That's where it's at. And so for me to actually learn that if we only are building mental strength, and I've shared this example before, it's like going to the gym and just skipping leg day. Like you're working the upper body.
Why'd you look at Harvey when you said that?
I was actually about to say, I think Andy does that, but surprised it wasn't a bold joke.
Well, but that's the point though. We've got emotional strength and we got mental strength. And everybody's focusing on the mental strength and actually using it to override our emotions. So that is like just working your upper body and neglecting the other half of you. What's going to happen? You're going to get look really funky, get imbalanced in your body. Your body's actually not going to be stable internally, and it's going to start causing damage. And so when we're only focused on mental strength and then completely neglect our emotional strength, we're walking around with half of our capacity. And when I understood that, that's when I started to understand the values of building emotional capacity as well. And I've never felt more internally stable than when I've had strength in both areas.
I want you to try and unpack something with me live on air. I think we might have done this before, but and I'll tell you a story. So there was, when we were with our previous employer, Adam had done multiple 100K periods. So that's where you bill 100K of gross profit in a 4-week period. And for me back then, like that was the mecca. Bearing in mind, in our previous employer, we got a very, very small cut of that as our commission.
Yeah.
And I remember that being the mecca and the goal I always wanted to work towards. And then now we're with Harwell, our own business, we obviously get a lot bigger cut of what we put on the board. And I remember, I think it was just when we started working with you, and it was quite confronting because I did my first ever 100K period. Which since I picked up the phone at my first recruitment call was the mecca. And I remember doing it and I just felt empty.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this big goal that I've been working towards, what I believe is success for so long in my recruitment journey. And now I've got to the top of the mountain and I feel absolutely empty. Like there are times where I did way less money, but felt way better about myself.
Why did you feel better about yourself at those times when you made less money?
I don't know, because I think I was on the journey. I think it was on the journey towards probably that big goal.
Mm-hmm. And so is it like a small victory along the way, or?
I think so. I think it was the milestone of still moving towards a bigger goal. Whereas I think that 100K aim was the end goal. And I probably got there and just thought, well, what's next? Because that doesn't feel like it was meant to feel.
So when you were before, when you're talking about previously earning less money but felt better, were you working for yourself or other people?
Other people.
How did they respond when you achieved that?
Can't really remember. You get a pat on the back, a well done. It was within a much larger group, so maybe it was an ego thing, because that 60K there, I might have been top of the pile for that month, so that might have elevated me slightly. Whereas when it was the 100K with Harwell, I think it was just still us at the time.
You got top biller for the month.
Yeah, so I beat one person.
But sit with that. So why you felt differently at other times is other people were involved. There was competition, there was challenge, there was working your way up, and there was, like you said, ego involved.
Yeah.
When it's just you two and you've achieved something amazing, who's there to pat you on the back? Besides Adam, who's always patting you on the back. You know,
at the back.
It's like that's actually because when other people are involved, they have benchmarks, they have KPIs, they say this is what you need to do to be good enough. When it's just yourself, where is your benchmark?
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the show. Now, while I got your attention, apart from being professional podcasters, we also run a recruitment agency called Harvey Consulting.
Yeah, we're super lucky that we get to partner with some of Australia's most well-known brands and biggest organisations. So if you're keen to hear a little bit more about how we add value to their teams and businesses with the right people, we'll put the links in the show notes, or you can check us out at www.harwellconsulting.com.au. Now enjoy the rest of the show. Yeah, because it just goes back to that ever-changing goalpost, isn't it?
Right. And one thing that you and I worked on, if I can share it,
Yeah,
you're not going to know until I share it anyway, so you edit it out. But is the big driver for you, and we touched on it early, is the need to prove.
Mm-hmm.
And that to prove yourself. So when you're in environments where you're proving yourself to others and getting that recognition, you feel good.
Yeah.
When you're trying to prove yourself to yourself, that's where you're feeling the emptiness, because you are somebody that never thinks you're good enough.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, that benchmark is never ending.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, how do I know what's good enough? And that's the problem that a lot of people don't actually sit with, that are high performers or entrepreneurs. And you guys are competitors, you're athletes, professional athletes. And you're always in an environment where that need to prove yourself is satiated. When that's gone, because it's just you two building something, then what? And that's what we're talking about. It's like, to get to the next level, then you're actually now confronting something that you've never confront. Like, how do we achieve something if we're not trying to prove ourselves to others or beat others? Like, if it's just us against us, well, now what's our driver? And who am I? And then, that spiral comes into place, but it's a perfect example of now you actually have to tap into something else. You have to confront the part of you that was always good enough, but likes to think he's not, to drive himself.
And that's, I think, where we talk about, I said, don't remove that chip on my shoulder, because sometimes that internal battle is what motivates me. And when you were talking then, I was laughing to myself, because I heard on the grapevine something that one of our competitors said about me. And it was actually that this person said that I always have to feel like people like me or acknowledge what I'm doing. And I just thought, yeah, she's fucking spot on, to be honest.
Fair play. The moment I knew that I was done in the old job was when I did $300,000 periods in 4 months, or 4 periods, so 3 out of 4. And literally did not give a single shit. Like, it sounded like a full wanker, but the money was good. Obviously, that was awesome. Well, that tax man takes most of that. I was just like, fuck, now have I got to go and do that again? Has it got to be 150 now? Has it got to be 200? Like, where does this stop? And that's when I was like, okay, well, what does 5 years look like? What's 10 years? If all I'm ever going to do is my job for someone else. I think I got pretty demotivated after that because, like I said, you got to the top of the mountain and then
what?
And then what? Like, and even it became the expectation. You do the end of month wrap ups and it'd be like, yeah, old mate did 30K, you did 35. Well done. Just 107. So. No one was asked, and I wasn't asked either. Like it was really weird.
How do you deal with that and change that? Because there might be someone listening can resonate, obviously in a different situation, but like, yeah, that's me. How do you? What steps do you do to fix that?
This is actually a conversation that I love. So, some of the conversations that I really could just talk about all day is the problems that successful people experience. Everybody talks about when you're trying to get successful. Oh, I've got a fear of failure. I've got a fear of rejection. When you've got past that and you actually are successful, no one really starts to talk about all of the problems that successful, wealthy people have. And oftentimes successful, wealthy people feel bad to have any problems or to be struggling in any way or to not feel good. And so no one really talks about these things where it's like when you actually have reached the peak that you set for yourself, and so often people have that feeling of emptiness. You've both experienced it. And so the way that I would talk about it is I think our society is an achievement-based model. We've talked about this before with the way that we set goals. Is everything is about motivating yourself to achieve something. And so the reason why the need to prove yourselves has really benefited you is because that's a great motivator. It motivates you to do something and then you achieve. But that's as far as it can get you. So when you achieve, you feel a level of satisfaction, or you can feel a level of emptiness, right? Where it's like, okay, cool, but what else is there? And there is a different way to live, which is what I would encourage, and that's the work that I do, which is a fulfillment-based model, which is not just about achieving things and not just about motivating yourself to do something. It's about is what you're doing and how you're doing it in alignment with who you are, and then can you feel the emotions of that success when it happens, right? So basically, if you are thinking, I want to achieve, what's a goal? Sorry, tell me what's a goal that you have. Just a practical goal.
An old goal or the new Jess Cameron inspired goal?
Give us an old goal then, and then you can tell me.
The one that springs to mind, I wanted to be able to pull $1 million of personal income each year from the business.
Right. So that's an external goal. And so you need to prove, let's say, we'll just focus on that at the moment. So there's other things obviously, but let's say that's a big driver to achieve that external goal. Then once you achieve it, what do you expect that you're going to feel?
You think you're going to feel amazing on top of the world.
And when we don't actually get specific with why we want a particular goal. So if you wanted $1 million, why?
Yeah, so this is where we really got into the why. Yeah. It's obviously to support my own family and live the life that we want to. Me and Ads are both, we were skint when we were growing up. So it was, the small things you had to be mindful of. I didn't want my kids to experience that. Like we had what we needed, but it was tight. I didn't want my kids to experience that worry or miss out on the school trips. And also my family in the UK is still not very well off. So I want to be able to provide to them and send $100,000 a year home and go, there you go. You don't have to worry anymore.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ed?
Bang on, same thing. I think this is quite tied to the values part of it as well, which is a lot of work on. And one of mine, which I definitely believe in now, I've kind of done the work on it, is the serving. I think we would have spoke about before doing the $100,000 and stuff, almost having a bit of a guilt for potentially making that kind of money and talking about those kind of figures. But then when we then flip that onto, okay, what can you do with that money? Who can you help? That's when it started to really sit quite comfortably.
Right. And so when you're listening to both of you, it's always coming back to an emotion. You want to feel something from achieving the goal. And that, to me, that's a fulfillment-based model. But we're not intentional about what do we want to feel specifically. And so when we talked about, like when we did goal setting together, I was like, okay, tell me what the external goal is. Now tell me why. Now tell me what it is that you're wanting to feel. That's the part no one talks about. And if you're not intentional with what you're wanting to feel, you go through life achieving, and being like, I don't feel that good every single time, and not knowing what the problem is. The actual goal is the feeling. The goal that you want in life is to feel particular things. And then the external goal that you've written down on your piece of paper on your vision board, that is what your brain has decided is the means.
Yeah.
Is the how. Yet we hyperfixate on that. And so let's say people say, I want, the $1 million. Why? I want financial freedom. Okay, what do you want to feel? I want to feel free. I don't want to feel stress around money. I want to feel like I've got lots of opportunities. I don't want to feel restricted. Okay, how do you currently feel that? How do you already feel free? And if you were to hyper focus on the feeling of freedom every single day, you are going to start creating more and more and more and more and more of that. And that means when you actually get to the point where you've got the $1 million, you're only now feeling more freedom rather than I always feel restricted and stressed and I keep doing and making more money, but every single level I'm just feeling more restricted and stressed. And now I've got more money, more problems, so more restricted and more stressed. You're only ever going to keep feeling more of what you already are feeling.
I think it's providing the freedom to others as well, I think is one of our big drivers. Like I look back to that period when we were young, like my mum was a single mum and she was grafting her fucking ass off. Like she was working massive weeks and we'd have everything we needed before she'd had anything that she wanted. So I think it's that she sacrificed so much for me and my sister to now go and provide that for freedom back to her and she can retire without a worry. That's also that part of that freedom that I want to seek as well.
Yeah, if you feel like you owe them one. I don't know, you both like mums will turn around and go like, no way, of course you don't. But I do. Like I owe her that for putting us first or putting me first before, up till I was 16, 19, whatever it was.
Yeah. I think digging into that, like the power, when we talk about those goals, okay, that $1 million goal was just the goal, right? And I'd come up to work. How do I think I get there? When you flip that, and for anyone listening to this, to be able to flip that goal and find the emotion and the real driver, you can find another few levels. Yeah. The work becomes so much more meaningful. You just seem to just go above and beyond without really having to change anything other than the reason why you're doing it.
Bit of awareness as well, right? Like it's been, what month is it? I think it's been about 9 months since we kind of worked for all this with you, Jess. And even just sat here now, it's bringing up those same feelings that I had at the time of going, wow, I'm so clear.
Yeah, I can see it in you. He's lighting up.
Yeah.
Both of you are.
And just remembering, I'm like, fuck yeah, 100%. Like, that's why we're doing it, right? It's not so we can, because we're not flashy people, right? Like I've got fucking dirty Air Force One.
I didn't want to say anything, but no.
These are $60 for Zara, they're falling apart.
It's where I think about spending my money is to generate long-term wealth. It's all about, can we buy this share? Can we reinvest back in the business? None of it's, and holidays and enjoying things for sure, but none of it's about looking super wealthy. But I think the big piece of that is, actually, this is probably a good one to dissect into, Jess, is the guilt of sacrificing short-term assistance for family, knowing that we could give them, I can give them more than I do right now, but that would be detrimental to the long-term, ongoing support I want to and hope to provide at the end. Like I'll give a little portion of the money I take each month back home. But even that doesn't feel like enough because I've still got other money that I'm trying to do other things with to build the generational wealth. So it's substantial long term. And I hate to be able to go, great, here's a few grand every month. And then at one point it just dries up and it's done. And then they've kind of got used to that level of support. And then it just stops one day. That's probably the biggest fear I've got, is not being able to continue to support them on an upward trajectory.
Yeah. And I think one thing you were saying then and what you said now 9 months ago, but talking about this again, you can feel it coming back to us, and it's a reminder for ads. How important is it for people to, okay, they come and see you, but continue practicing this sort of stuff, and how can they do it?
How can they keep practicing it?
Yeah. Well, book in with Jess every 2 weeks. www.
Thanks, guys. No, I think it's but can you see how you both tapped back into it by tapping into the emotion? So that's always there for you. So when you think about, like, how is it going to feel for you when you're able to let's say, buy your mum a house?
Mm.
Like, what's that feeling? Not just I bought mum a house, but what is the actual feeling?
I don't know.
Like, he's made it big time. Like,
Yeah.
reliable, dependable, solid. Like,
yeah. For me, it's how I make them feel. That relief that I can create for them.
So if you can create relief for them, how do you feel? Being the man that created relief for your loved ones.
Yeah, like fulfilled, accomplished.
Successful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How are you already providing relief in certain ways to people that you love? To your partners?
Trying to think outside of financially, because I think that's not an easy one, but there's more to life than just that, right?
Yeah.
I think energy-wise, I think I'd like to think that I inspire people, not because of what I do, but because of the way I react to things that they do, you know? Like Maddie's starting an e-com business at the moment. I'm the biggest cheerleader, you know? Like I'm pushing her and going, great, let's do this, let's do that for her. So I'd like to think that people can come to me and when they leave that conversation with me or that meeting with me, their energy is lifted rather than, and we all know the kind of people you speak to and you go, fuck, why do I bother? Like you don't give a shit about what I want to say. You're just listening to talk about yourself and whatever ideas I've got, you kind of shoot down. So I'm always so conscious of being the opposite of that.
So the relief that they get from self-doubt, right? Where they're actually in a conversation with you, because obviously they're going to be self-doubt, worry, stress, and then talking to you, you relieve them of that.
For me, I think it's just the showing up every single day. And when I'm having a doom scroll on Instagram, the one quote that keeps coming up is it's all about the person you become on the journey. And I think that was a penny drop moment for me. It's not this big goal of this massive house and all these investment properties. What I actually love is the person that I've become along this journey. Like we used to binge drink and party heavily every single weekend. And I was a piece of shit as a result of that. Like I was there were times I was a crap partner, I was crap at work. And it was like, I think what this journey's doing is it's flipped that on its head and I'm no longer that person. So that's why now I probably love myself a little bit more. And that's how we can turn up every day and provide the people that were already around us.
And so that's my point, is if you were to start looking at all the ways that you already are providing the things that you want within the lives of your loved ones, then when you get to a particular point, rather than going from nothing to everything, right? So it's like, oh, I'm not helping, all of a sudden I'm helping. It's like, how am I helping in every single possible way? And you're feeling that energy, you're feeling that emotion constantly. And that is how you create more of it. And this is what I say, you can't create something from nothing, right? You can't feel, I remember I had a moment where I was doing my manifestation goals, and this was years ago. And I was like, I want to manifest some number in my bank account that means I never feel restricted.
Yeah.
And I was like, having all the positive vibes and like,
but what does that make you feel, Jess?
And I was sitting, but this is the key. What I was realizing is all the positive vibes and positive thoughts. I was like, yeah, what's it going to be like to want to do something and you can just do it straight away and you don't have to think about it and you don't have to feel restricted. And I realized I had this like penny drop moment where it was like, so you currently feel restricted. So I want this number in my bank account, just pluck it out of nowhere, some number in my bank account that will make me feel like free. But that means I currently don't feel free. I currently feel restricted. How am I supposed to create freedom out of stuck, out of trapped, out of frustration and restricted? And it sounds so simple. I can't tell you how profound this moment was for me. And I remember sitting there being like, oh, that's not possible. I'm not going to be able to create that if I don't already feel something of that. And I sat there and I was like, what are all the ways that I'm already not restricted, that I'm already free? And I thought, every time I've wanted to do something, I've done it. Like I've found the means to do it. No matter what is in my bank account, I've had 81 cents in my bank account. I know. I took a screenshot of it being like, this will be a fun story one day on Two Blokes One Business podcast. Right? I was like 81 cents in my bank account and I went on a Europe trip. Like how did that happen? And so the feeling of, like, as I sat there and just started running through my life and realizing I've actually always done what it is that I've wanted to do. So I'm not actually restricted. I already am free. And the more that I sat with that feeling and constantly was looking for the ways that I've got opportunities and freedom, the more I've created it. Like it's just like snowballed into like bigger, quicker, because I'm already feeling it.
We speak about abundance v scarcity. It feels like what you're talking about then kind of ties into that abundance mindset of it's all out there. Just go and get it
and it's all in there.
Yeah.
So not just out there to like grab, it's realizing it's actually in you to access. But it's just an emotion. You're actually just chasing an emotion. That's the crazy thing. When you think about all of these goals, what you're actually chasing is to feel like a good provider, to feel dependable, to feel like a good man. Like it's a feeling that you're actually chasing, and you can access those feelings now.
Before the $1 million, yeah.
Before the $1 million.
Is it still important to keep those big crazy goals? Because I'd hate for me to go, okay, find the little areas I feel that fulfillment now from providing in my current life, and then you lose sight of the big goal, and then at some point they're going to wear off those feelings.
Like, yeah. See, can you see the fear that always comes up with people? But I love it because everybody listening will have the same thoughts. It's all of our fears, especially a high achiever. It's like, don't take away my motivator. Don't take away, like, am I just not going to have a big vision? Think about it like this. When you're a kid, you developed rapidly from being in, your caregiver's arms to walking. Rapidly. Who were you proving things to?
Yourself.
What were you chasing? Like, we think that we don't grow unless we've got something to chase or something externally to prove. But actually in our developmental years, we grew rapidly purely based on experimentation, interest, adventure, curiosity, like, wonder what this wall would look like red. Slap some paint on the wall. Like, you weren't sitting there thinking about anybody else. You're in pure exploration of your own capacity. And so when we get to certain levels, because we're proving, we've got something to show the world, we think without that we're not going to grow anymore. We're not going to have those big goals anymore. You will, but it will be purely out of curiosity of what is Harvey and Adam's capacity. Yeah. Like, what is my capacity? I'm curious, not I've got to achieve this because it's the only way to look like this to X, Y, and Z.
Does that happen organically in terms of that growth, or are there still a few pillars where you go, hey, this is where you can seek growth as an individual?
I would like to say it happens organically, but I don't think it does without these kinds of conversations. Without like paradigm shifting conversations, no. People will continue to chase and chase and chase, and that's why they get to their deathbed and they look back on their life and they see all the things that they didn't do because they were chasing some level of success or some financial goal and feel pretty utterly disappointed with themselves and their lives. So you can be 80, 90, 100 years old and have never actually had this conversation that said, get out of constantly chasing external success and actually start figuring out what it is that you want to feel in life. And you can feel it now, and then the shift happens organically. That's what has happened to me, where it's like I've got big goals. I got big, hairy goals, but I don't feel anxious and depressed and frustrated now until I achieve it. And I had a mentor teach me that years ago, which was another one of those life-changing moments for me, where they were like, they were talking about how impatient I was with my goals. And since I was a kid, I've had people tell me, patience is a virtue, patience is a virtue. And I used to be like, it's a dumb virtue. Why does anyone want that virtue? That's just lazy people. I honestly thought people that said be patient were just lazy, or they just weren't courageous enough, or they just didn't know how to make it happen. And so I was like, that's never something that I want to achieve. But what I didn't realize is every single time I wanted something, which is all the time, because if you're a human being that values growth, every single time you achieve something, you're going to move the goalpost. So when you actually recognize that pretty much all of your life is going to be wanting for something, And if you don't enjoy wanting, you're not going to enjoy your life. And that was the massive like punch in the face for me. Like it was such a pivotal moment of being like, I'm always wanting something and I achieve it and then, woo for a few minutes and then I want something else. And I hate wanting. I hate the feeling of wanting, and which came back to I'm feeling stuck, I'm feeling restricted, and I'm using that to drive myself. That discomfort of wanting something, I use it to drive to the next goal. But then I realized all of my life is going to be miserable because I'm miserable when I'm wanting something. So how do I learn to love wanting, to have that big goal and that big vision and being like, it literally doesn't matter how many years it takes to achieve that. I love the process of creating it and of it unfolding organically. And I don't have to put arbitrary timeframes on things anymore. I'm just like, I've got these big visions. I trust that they're coming. So that was the key for me. Patience for me is actually trust. It's not being lazy or passive or not doing anything. It's trusting I am going to get there because I've always gotten there.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm just learning to love getting there.
Yeah. Can you share the quote you said when we first saw you on stage in relation to regret and being on your deathbed? Because that sticks with me, like still sticks with me now today, and I've told so many people.
How about you say it?
You can't remember it?
Because you're going to do it way better than me.
Yeah.
I think it was something along the lines of when you're lying there on your deathbed and you're taking your last few breaths, you're not there saying, fuck, I'm so glad I didn't take any of those risks. I'm so glad I never pushed myself out of my comfort zone. You're thinking, fuck, what if I could have done this? I could have done that.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful to put yourself, because people have that thought every single day, but it's easy to take the easy way out when you've got 30 years of life ahead of you. But to actually picture yourself on your deathbed and going, fuck, could have done so much better.
I call it deathbed wisdom. And it actually is such a powerful tool for me. And because it brings that deathbed wisdom moment into my present all of the time. When I'm making big decisions or I'm making scary decisions, I'll tap into deathbed wisdom where I'm like, if I'm on my deathbed, how am I going to view this moment? If I could look back at all of the pivotal moments or big decisions in my life, how am I going to view this moment? Am I going to be like, shit, yeah, Jess, like, good on you. Like, look at you, you brave little cookie. Am I going to be like, I'm so awesome? I'm going to be like, Jess, if you just had a smidge more courage, look what could have happened. And so deathbed wisdom for me, I bring into those moments where it's like, what am I going to think? And I don't want to wait till I'm there. I can think that now and I can actually live my life that way now. And I think the quote that you're probably talking about is any attempt to avoid disappointment will create a disappointing life.
Incredible.
Okay? And that's the point. Any attempt to avoid disappointment. So in those big moments of decisions where you're like, oh, I don't want to have that conversation. What if it doesn't work out? I don't want to pursue that career. What if it doesn't work out? I don't want to tell that person how I feel. What if it doesn't work out? Like our absolute, incessant need to avoid the feeling of disappointment will create undoubtedly a disappointing life for you. And that is not an experience I want to have in this life. I do not want to get to that point and be like, I didn't try all of these things just in case. And oh my God, I didn't try all of these things. What have I done with my life?
Incredible.
That's a driver for me.
Yeah. I'm so glad that this episode's taken this route. I wanted to get vulnerable. I hope we haven't bored people because it's been a lot about our stories, but I wanted to take people through, rather than just you tell us what you do, I wanted to take people through the steps that we went through so they can try and replicate it themselves. And kind of do what we've done, because there's so many people out there on Instagram, business coaches, and it's just process systems, work 90 hours a week. But what we've found is, yes, a lot of that hard work and stuff like that's important, but we've unlocked so much more performance and happiness and I guess meaning in this business and our lives by doing all of that work. And I think it's so powerful that everyone should be doing it.
I definitely feel like having Jess in our corner is a bit of a superpower. I don't think many people, not enough people know about, I guess, what you could do for them. And I think the fact that we did do a lot of work of in that early part of building Harwell, massive reason why we've managed to keep the growth and, for the most part, keep on that up trajectory.
Which is a credit to you guys. I remember when you first came to me, you're like, we don't have any problems. Like everything's going awesome. Like your success was so rapid that you're like, but we want to make sure that the foundation is so solid because this is growing so quickly. If we don't have a solid foundation, it could all crumble. And so that was your own wisdom and credit to you guys in being like, how do we really like fortify this foundation? Because we're going to bring other people onto this foundation. If we crumble, they all crumble, you know? And so that's it's such a powerful leadership quality that you both have, in to be like, how do we be responsible to ourselves and to others? We have to lead ourselves first. We can't lead others if we don't lead ourselves and get that foundation right for the trajectory that you guys are on and you've always been on, and there's never any stopping. Like it's how strong are we internally to actually maintain the success that we have and are going to continue to have? Like, can we actually hold that? Can we hold our families together while we're doing that? You know, and that's stuff that people, they're just obsessed with the money or the success or the status that they don't actually think about and why it falls apart. You did not build on a solid foundation. That's why it fell apart. Yeah. That's why your relationship fell apart. That's why your families fell apart. That's why your friendships fell apart.
Wow.
I think anyone can, literally everyone can benefit from what you do, Jess, but typically the clients you work with, what's their avatar? Who are the people that you help most?
I have this thing that I've discovered that I'm like, brings me a lot of joy, that I seem to attract a kind of client that is like right on the precipice of, like, they know that they've got greatness in them. Nearly everyone that's come to me like knows since, you know, young age pretty much that I've got something in me. I've got greatness in me. I've got such potential in me. I don't know how to get there. And that's usually the kind of clientele that I attract. They're a bit more of like, you know, the 1%ers and people that are self-responsible for one, but they're like, how do I unlock this potential? I had one client say to me that she's like, Jess, this is who you are for me. She's like, it's like I'm in the cocoon and I know in my mind I'm going to be the butterfly, but I don't know how to get out of the cocoon. And that's what I want you for, helping me get out of the cocoon. And I was like, it's such a funny way to put it, but that wraps up so much of like where the stage that people are at when they come to me. It's like they're on the precipice and they don't even know it half the time. So I get quite excited because I'm like, I'm about to push you straight off the ledge, but obviously build up some strength while you do it. But that's like for you guys, you know, it's just like it's fine tooth combing and tweaking and getting that solid foundation.
And I know you did a 6-week masterclass. Is that right? 6 weeks?
I did a 6-module masterclass.
6-module masterclass. Is that wrapped up now? How did that go?
Yeah, it went great.
Awesome.
That was on emotional regulation. So I think off the back of the presentations that I met you guys at, a lot of people had the same sort of questions about emotional regulation and a lot of men. I had so much response from men being like, I have never thought about it in this way. I've only ever thought mindset, strong mindset. I've actually never realized it was my emotional weakness that's holding me back. And I get that all of the time. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do a masterclass on emotional regulation of how to actually practically, because you guys know I'm a very practical person. Like, it's a great concept, but how do we apply it? How do we build emotional resilience? How do we build emotional capacity so we're not crippled by them? We actually know how to use them.
Why do you do what you do? Like, what's your driver?
Okay, it's my turn.
Yeah, here we go.
I was like, glad you put the aircon on.
We'll hit record now.
Yeah. For me, and this is something I think I knew when I was a young girl, I just never knew how to get there. I never knew how it would unfold in life. One of the things that I think probably, actually, I've only just thought of this just now as you asked this question. Born from pain of seeing people live very far beneath their potential. And actually does cause me pain. And to see somebody that I love or people that I love not living the life that they're capable of and the life that they actually want to. And I've sat in conversations with loved ones before that makes me emotional. And actually seeing them feel like they missed the boat. They missed the boat in life, that they didn't try for particular things. And now where they're at, they literally have missed the boat. Like, that does happen. And so I think that pain, which is why I bring that deathbed wisdom, forward, is like that pain of seeing people live so far beneath their potential. And I know for whatever reason, have the gifts and the capacity to help bring that out in people. And that is my passion. Like when I can see somebody that actually is able to access their potential and actually to create the life that they want to have. It's not just, live your best life. It's like, what do you want to experience? And having the tools to do it and giving people the key to essentially unlock the cage they've put themselves in. That to me is my driver. Like there is nothing that brings me more passion. I know for a fact that I live my life's purpose. Like my specific gifts and abilities is for this reason, and I get to do that every day.
Yeah, that's incredible. And like we're your biggest advocate, and people can work with you on a number of different levels. Like me and Ads have worked with you individually. We've done leadership sessions together. We've had you come into our business and do this across our whole team. So I want
send our best mates there when they're in a tough time.
Yeah.
A messy breakup.
Yeah.
Whenever I get a phone call and it's probably some English lad that I'm like, do you play soccer? Yeah. Have you come from Adam or Harvey?
Yeah. And I wanted to share that because I want people that are listening to be able to come and find you and inquire and go, yeah, okay, you can help me, or it's not me, it's my team I want you to come and help, or my partner. But where is the best place for people to come and find you to work with you?
Probably just my website. So www.jesscameron.com. On Instagram as well, that's Jess Cameron. On LinkedIn, Jess Cameron, pretty standard. It's just my name. But yeah, website's probably the easiest way to access me.
The way I probably curtail that is saying, even if you've got 1% of curiosity about a certain problem you might have, even if you're not sure you've got it, give Jess the opportunity to tell you about it and explore it. You won't regret it.
No. Absolutely not. And we'll get those handles off you and put them all in the show notes as well so people can find you. But thanks for listening, guys. That was a belter.
I knew this one was going to be good, but I think that's even better than I thought it was going to be.
You're not modest.
Thanks so much, Jess.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.